Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is sightsee. Now, all this week, I've been discussing some verbs I thought about as I was on vacation last week, and this is yet another one that came to mind. So, we use the verb sightsee to mean that we're visiting places of interest in a particular location, right? Really just to see them. So, this verb is a compound word, sight, right? Kind of referring to a location, right? And see. Right? So we're trying to see places. This is really the only way that this particular verb gets used, its only definition. It is an irregular verb, and it's going to follow the same pattern we observe with the verb see. Okay, so to make the progressive form of this, I just add ing to form sightseeing. But then our past tense form will be sight saw, and our participle form will be sight seen. So saw and seen are those irregular verbs, irregular forms of the verb see. So hopefully you can see that connection. Now, there aren't any phrasal verbs that you need to know for this particular verb. And normally at this point, I would start working through some different example sentences showing you common ways that this verb gets used. But as I thought about it, and as I looked for more examples, I want to note that this is not a super common verb that you are going to hear. Now, we'll talk through a couple examples. What is more common, I believe, is for you to see the gerund or the infinitive forms. So I always tell my students these look like verbs, but they actually function like a noun in a sentence. So both gerunds and infinitives are referring to an activity. So we're just meaning this activity of engaging and seeing new places. So let's take a look at some past progressive sentences. I borrowed these from some recent articles. We'll start with the past progressive. So we use this to talk about an action that was ongoing. My first example is kind of a sad story. The sentence is, the couple was sightseeing when an unexpected wave hit them. So this story unfortunately came from a report of individuals who passed away. They were sort of washed out, I believe, into the sea or to an ocean. And so they were describing what was happening, and then the wave hitting them. That was the interrupting action. So hit is in the simple past tense there. Another thing I thought was interesting about this sentence, the word couple refers to two people, right? But the noun couple is singular, so that's why I'm using was there. I know that sometimes gets a little tricky for my students as well. Second sentence, they were not sightseeing, they were there on business. So again, kind of describing an ongoing action there. An example I saw in the present progressive or present continuous. An example, they are sightseeing in Asia this week, right? So we're describing an ongoing action. I'm using my present form of be, and then I'm using that progressive form of the verb. Okay. Now, I really couldn't find great examples of sight saw use. It even sounds a little funny to my ear, in that it's just not something I hear or I read very often. I saw a few examples of the present perfect, and I've got one to share here. He has sightseen around the country since he retired. So the writer here would be using the present perfect to talk about an action started in the past, this idea of going to visit different places just to experience them, and that it started at the point at which he retired. Now let's take a look at some gerunds and infinitives. Okay, I again feel like this is a much more common way for you to sort of hear this word being used. So I always like to remind my students, gerunds start with G, and so they're going to have that ing form. It's easy to get gerunds and infinitives confused. So first example, did you do any sightseeing this summer? Okay, here's the simple past tense question, a yes or no question. My verb is do, and then we've got that activity, sightseeing. Okay, second example, they went sightseeing yesterday. My verb here is went. That's the past tense form of go. And I think that's a really common way for you to hear this used. So to have the verb go followed by the gerund sightseeing. Go sightseeing, will go sightseeing. That you will hear in many different tenses. Now let's take a look at the infinitive. The infinitive is to and then a base verb. Here's an example. The students have a day off from class to sightsee tomorrow. Right? So that's the activity. That's the activity they will be doing in the future. So our verb in that sentence is have. So I hope this gives you kind of a real or more authentic way in which to think about how this word gets used in everyday conversation. Now, let's take just a quick moment to look at one related word to our verb sightsee, and that word is sightseer. So hopefully that suffix is telling you this is a person who goes sightseeing. An example of this in a sentence might be, there were hundreds of sightseers at Lake Louise last month when we visited. Okay, so on the left here, I'll direct your attention here. This is a picture of Lake Louise in Alberta, Canada. It's where I traveled to on my vacation, and gosh, there were just so many people. This is a really popular area. I generally like being somewhere where there are not so many sightseers. And this is the best picture I could do with as few people in it as possible. But it still looks like maybe I got someone's elbow there, and you can see some kayakers, boaters out in this particular lake in the distance. I've also included another picture. Chicago is a city that is known for having many people, many sightseers who come to check out different things. And I've got a picture here of a sightseeing tour. So again, something really common in many cities as part of their tourism of getting visitors to travel and check out new places. This is a boat tour, I think specifically to kind of focus on the architecture. So all the different buildings and the styles in which they have been built. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.